The woman was hiding under the table. Through a crack, she saw 3 strange men break into her home. She held her breath and dared not make a sound. It looked as if they were about to leave the living room. Daisy planned to escape, but she didn't expect one of the men to return. She hurried back under the table, until the men left without noticing anything unusual. Daisy rose slowly from under the table, but just as she was about to escape, there was the sound of boiling water in the kitchen. Daisy had no choice but to sneak into the kitchen compartment. It turned out that an hour earlier, Daisy had seen through the window 3 men coming out of a car. She hid under the table. It wasn't long before the men broke into the house. Luckily, the arriving men didn't find her, but just as Jack turned off the fire, George saw Daisy's clothes. The men began to wonder. It turns out that the information they had received was that she had gone to a funeral, and no one was supposed to be home. But why would there be anything unusual in the house now? So the 3 of them split up to search the house. Jack, who was stuck in the kitchen, noticed a cubicle. He reaches into it. Daisy has disappeared from the cubicle. By now, she had already made her way to the bedroom on the 2nd floor. Taking advantage of her familiarity with the terrain, George had heard the commotion and was on his way. Daisy's heart trembled. She didn't know what to do. When George pushed open the door and entered, only to find it empty, until he went deeper and deeper, he realized there was a utility room, and Daisy was hiding in the corner. George was rummaging around in the utility room. She was too nervous to move. She was about to be discovered, so she started to run. She was the first to make it down the hall, but just as she stepped outside, she stopped. There was fear in her eyes. The men who were coming after her were puzzled. She had a chance to escape, but stopped where she was. Jack hurriedly closed the door, although he didn't know why. He knew that the most important thing was to find the money. Jack anxiously asked for the location of the safe, but Daisy remained silent. In desperation, Jack decides to look for it himself. George wondered why Daisy was afraid to go out, so he brought Daisy to the door. Daisy, however, was in a very difficult situation. Then she went into a trance. She was crawling on the floor, and tried to get back into the house, but George blocked her way. Jack came to her aid. The 3 of them were on this trip for the money. He didn't want any trouble. He tried to hold Daisy steady, but Daisy peed on the spot. Jack didn't have time to think about it. He took advantage of Daisy's confusion. When Daisy was in a daze, he forced her to find out where the safe was. When he found out that the safe was in the basement, he took Daisy back to her room.